One and only. Elder Karl, are you there, my friend?
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me.
What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Doing good. It's been a while. I used to do a lot of YouTube live streams, and it's been a minute. So getting back into the swing of things, so it's good.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I'm sure you caught it. I want to ask some specific questions about your journey. I know it's kind of like our first time really officially meeting. My background is, played some pro ball for a while, been in business 25 years, motivational speaker, got into crypto in 17, semi-retired us about 3 years ago, started traveling the world with the wife, kind of moving from Hawaii to Vegas, here, there, and everything else. Now we're up in wine country. And I was co-hosting another show. And during the time that I co-hosted that show, I met CKaz, who's amazing individual, as is many of the IBF family members. And so after co-hosting that, the actual host of that show said, hey, man, I think you should start your own show based off the fact that I used to be a speaker. And I went from suit and ties to cornrows and sweatsuits, just hanging out, and all because of crypto. So you got to love it, man. But so yeah, I decided to start the show about 3 or 4 months ago, and it's been going great. A lot of great support, and it's because of individuals like you coming on sharing your story. So that's my background. But what I'm more interested in is hearing about you, what you do, and before we get into BoomerSquad anything, just tell us about who Elder Karl is, your background, and we'll just kind of start from there.
Yeah, so I grew up in Chicago, pretty much my whole life outside of the city and suburbs, and my fiat world, like my fiat job, everything I did in my career was based around like supply chain logistics.
Wow.
Pretty much that's my background. So currently, overseeing a pretty large warehousing and shipping and transportation operation for a pretty large company, and that's just always been my thing. I went to school to be a financial advisor.
Wow.
After like 5 minutes of interviewing, I was like, that's not my lifestyle. I'm not into that.
Right.
And it's just like supply chain logistics stuff made sense to me. It's all about like logic, solving problems, like organizing people, things like that. So, yeah, that was like that's kind of what I do there. And then I got into crypto right around like 2017. We had a few buddies that we hang out with online all the time, like Discord playing games or whatever. And
right.
Heard of Bitcoin and other certain altcoins, and so like most people, I started on like centralized exchanges, like really basic stuff, just like bought some Bitcoin on Coinbase or whatever at the time, and then started dipping my toes into altcoins, and then you start going down that rabbit hole of like just finding and exploring more and more things, right? My first like true plunge into DeFi was probably when BNB released their smart chain back with like their Trust Wallet. Back then they had a ton of like DeFi protocols dropping, and that was like full on degen stuff. If anyone was around for that was like you buy some crappy altcoin for whatever for like 5 minutes, you put it into a farm, APYs are through the roof for like 2 seconds, and
2 seconds.
It's just a rush. Yeah, right. And so like you get wrecked in a few of those, and then you just kind of start diversifying around them.
Yeah,
I think the biggest thing for me is over the course of time, like just being around a lot of industry and just seeing a lot of different, how different industries operate, I just started to really think that like when you grow up and you're not working with like CEOs or like big executives, you have this like assumption that they're really got everything all together and they know everything and that they really have everything under control. But then the more you like interact with those people on a regular basis, you realize that there's a lot of people that have made it really far with not really having much, going for them, I would say, like in that regard, right? So it started really questioning like everything in life in terms of like how government is set up, how banking is set up, how businesses are set up. And so that's just like really started to make me like look at everything differently, I guess. And that crypto is like that perfect kind of realm for you to, if your mind lets you wander, it's a perfect place to start going down a ton of different rabbit holes like that. So.
Yeah, and it never gets boring. I think it's funny hearing your story because that's really where it started for a lot of us. Where you get in and it's just like I told my wife, it's like I feel like basketball was like that one thing that used to keep me going, and then I've had traditional businesses, but like crypto is a different high, and I say that in a very respectful way because I don't get high, nothing like that. But in the sense that you can never get enough. Like I would find myself going to bed at 2, 3, 4 in the morning. I'm like, dude, what the? I just couldn't. And I remember when I started trading in 17 and I got involved, it got to the point where my wife had to tell me, honey, it's like you're overboard. And so I literally had to. Then I went and opened up an office that was kind of about 15 minutes away from my house, and I would time it that during the day I was dad and husband and everything else, and and play with the dogs. And when everyone went to sleep, even if my wife stayed up and watched a movie till 1, 2 in the morning, I would leave at 1, 2 in the morning and go to the office and be there till like 10, like the next day or something. I just got it was just, to me, it was like, how could this be real? And sometimes you get in a position like you start making money, you're like, good Lord, is this even legal? Like, this is crazy. And so it was just so much fun doing that, and obviously getting into NFTs and stuff. So that's what I want to ask you next. Is, we know you got in around 17. When did you start looking at NFTs and taking that serious before your journey in where you're at now?
Yeah, so I learned about NFTs with like CryptoKitties like forever ago,
Okay.
and I thought they were really stupid and dumb, and they didn't make any sense, right? Which I think most people's reactions were. And then I'm a pretty big gamer. I've always played video games my entire life, and it wasn't until like I started to make connections to video games and like skins and things like that, to where like, okay, I could see how there's a digital asset ownership, the validity there, and then it made me start to look right. Up until that point. So that would have been, I don't even know, 21 or something like that, early 21. And that time frame, I really started to like actually take them seriously, as opposed to just saying like, hey, this is a stupid cat. That's a picture. It doesn't mean anything.
Right.
For me, and I think the coolest thing about the space and things like that is like, when I first got into NFTs and like really started to dig in, I immediately, my entire mindset was like, okay, it's all games, it's all digital assets. Like, that's where the value is at. I could totally see that. Like, myself was dumb enough to buy like a Counter-Strike skin for like $800 at one point, just because I really liked playing Counter-Strike. It meant nothing, it was worthless, right? But then you start to like see the like evolution of these things and realize that, what, I think there's a certain niche for games when it comes to NFTs. It makes a lot of sense. It's not, I don't think, what a lot of people think it is today, right? Games, I don't think, are going to be centered around NFTs that are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. I think anything in the gaming space is going to be more about, like smaller transactional type stuff, giving users access to those things and et cetera. But I think it started to like you said, you start getting into the space and like starting to see what's around you, and you start seeing how it could be powerful. And I think the coolest thing with these is like I don't want to say every day, because that would be baloney, but like, let's just say every month, every week or so, you hear of an idea or you see a concept and you're like, oh, I could actually see that making a lot of sense. Like, the most recent was with like logistics and NFTs and like blockchain, just not necessarily NFTs, just blockchain in general, maybe putting, border information on block, as opposed to like trying to have a truck driver print a sheet of paper, carry it to the border. If you don't have the sheet of paper that's signed by us, and again, people who don't know what I'm talking about may seem like really boring, but this is a huge pain in the ass at a shipper, right? You got to get all this paperwork and keep it. If it was all on block, it'd be a lot easier, things like that. And so yeah, I don't know. That's for me. And then as we got into NFTs more and more, like, that's where I spent all my time. Like, I haven't traded crypto, like actual coins, in a long time, other than just holding, for my longer term bags here. Because it's all about seeing what's out there, seeing what other projects are doing. And that's even a whole different level of researching, because you got to go through Discords and listen to people talk. And it's the space has changed a lot, right? Because early, there wasn't a lot of Twitter spaces or people like publicly coming out and like trying to like push their project. It was more of like a behind the scenes, like anonymous type of business. And now it's way more out there. So that's how we got into them.
Yeah, and it's funny because, hearing your story just starts drawing up things in my own mind. It's funny because coming up as a young man, before, obviously getting into basketball, I was always into like, Transformers and cards, like the trading, like the Michael Jordan cards or the Larry Bird cards, or comic book. And I would get so pissed off because I had siblings, and I would have something that was so perfect, and I would keep it a certain way, and all of a sudden I'm like, you bent my stinking Jordan card, you tore my comic book. And so that to me was like that thing that stuck in my mind when NFTs came. And I think that's why I have probably close to 3,400, over 3,300 now, NFTs from different platforms. Because it allowed me to be a kid again. I'm like, man, I could get all, and I just went, like, I probably buy an NFT, I put this on everything, probably at least once every other day. And sometimes it's once a day. I just search for stuff to buy. And there was a moment that I went kind of bananas. There was like a month that I went crazy and probably bought like over 1,000, 1,500 NFTs. and it's just because it allows you to be a kid again. Like every comic I can get my head on, everything I can think of, if it's whatever it is, a painting or a certain toy that I was like, oh my God, Voltron. I mean, it's funny because here I am, a grown man, and it just brings back that
Yeah.
child in you. So I think that's what really fascinated me with that industry. And like you, I haven't really traded a lot. And before we get into BoomerSquad, there's another question I want to ask you, because I want
Sure.
that to be the grand finale. There is that where are your thoughts at right now on the industry as a whole? Obviously, you've been around as long as I have, since 17. We haven't seen more crap happen in the last year with Celsius and Luna and FTX and just manipulation, and we've talked about it forever. And then you take all those things in crypto and then you add in what we've all known to be true, which is the corruption of banking and governments and agendas and Elder Karl, I know we just got connected, but now we're family, and I'm gonna make sure I stay connected to you and start working with you on BoomerSquad, because it's something I've always wanted to get more involved in. And I know CKS has told me about it, but now that I've got the connection, I want to stay connected to you and really invest in that. But one of the things I was going to say is I think never, when you look at all the corruption that's gone on, it really has, I guess, validated crypto as a whole, right? All the stuff that's
Sure.
going on, it just brings in more and more validation. And you start seeing all these sneaky things that are going on, banks collapsing all of a sudden and bailouts, all these things. And, it just kind of lets people know that I think we're in a position now that we'll never be in again, where this might be the greatest. First of all, it is the greatest opportunity we've ever seen in the history of the world, because it allows all of us to dream again. I talk about this on my show all the time. It allows us to not only dream that we can be great, but do so without having to worry about catching a football or playing basketball or singing or rapping
Right.
or this and that. I mean, anybody can do this. And I think that's what's really, really exciting for me, is to see that, that this is something that can change, my family's life, which it already has, and many other people's, that's what kind of prompted me to start my own YouTube channel. I said, man, this is going to be amazing, because I can go back and give back. You can't teach people how to be 6'8", or dunk a ball like I did back then.
Right.
You can't teach a person overnight what you did that took you so many years to master in your craft of work. But anybody can learn this. Anybody can be a part of it. And so I just want you to talk about your thoughts on where we're at. Do you see, and again, I know you can't predict anything, do you see more downside? Because I always tell people, be very careful about these pumps. We are in a bear
Sure.
market right now. I always tell people the trend is our friend until otherwise invalidated. So many people get ruined and wrecked because they go all in, and then all of a sudden we do have some. And the thing I also want to say before you respond is, how can it be so much chaos and corruption and uncertainty about a recession, depression, and what the government's doing with banking, and we think that it's time to go to the roof? I'm kind of conflicted on that, because even though I think Kathy Woods at ARK Investments is right, that she says, in 7 years we could see a $1.7 million Bitcoin. Michael Saylor says he sees it being 5 million in 17 years. Some people going as far as 10 million. When you look at, a lot of the big institutional money coming into the ecosystem as a whole, I see that, and man, I buy into it, and I'm there singing hallelujah with everybody else. But the problem that I have is, I think we have some rough times ahead before we get there. Your thoughts, and I'm gonna turn it over to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm with you. I don't think. I mean, it's nice when we have like short-term relief, like little pops here and there. But I mean, if you look at, put it this way, and I obviously don't want to. This is my opinion, obviously, in the same breath, right? But from thinking outside of crypto, just thinking like of macro, what's going on in the world around us, it's not looking good for the next 6 to 12 months, right? So the reality of the situation is that people need to pay their mortgage, they need to feed their kids, they need to pay their bills, they need to do these things. And, you might want to hodl your Bitcoin forever, but if you're sitting without a job because the company you work for is no longer there or whatever, and you don't have a choice,
that's right.
I would assume most people would, make that decision in that way. I think, obviously anything could happen, but I think it's going to be a while before crypto like breaks away entirely from like what's happening in like your typical, fiat markets and things like that. I think it'll always be somewhat tied to it, because it's people. People is the thing that makes these things move, not necessarily markets, right?
That's right.
As far as where we're at, like, I think what's happened recently is with like STX and Celsius and Luna and all these things, is it's shown people that kind of like it brings you back to the whole point of DeFi in the first place.
That's
the
right.
whole point of like Bitcoin is all of these things are failing because the reality of the situation is that when people get a lot of money or they get access to a lot of money or they see a path to have a lot of money, sometimes, not all the time, but there are people that make really bad decisions. Those decisions lead to people getting wrecked.
That's right.
You know, if FTX was a decentralized place that everybody could see what was going on and you didn't have a very small select people with their hands in the cookie jar all the time, then that shit wouldn't have happened, right? But it's because it is a centralized activity, and that's the thing that always gets me when I watch, like, I'm big on like reading up on like cease and desist orders or court cases or watching just hearings over on like Capitol Hill. And the thing that drives me crazy is a lot of people in those seats that are listening to hearings and listening to things that are going on are like, hey, this is why crypto is dangerous and this is why this is a bad thing for people, even though they don't give a shit about that. They just want your money for taxes, right? That's the biggest thing they care about. The thing that drives me nuts is like the reason why those things failed is because they're functioning like things function today in the world today. Right? It's because you have bad actors who are doing bad things behind closed doors that nobody knows about. It's not like really crypto. It's just on block in some way, shape, or form. It's facilitating crypto, but it's not crypto doing it.
And you know, I love your mindset on that because, you know, it's kind of like when USDC depegged last week, right? And I kept telling people, I was like, look, guys, you guys don't understand. People freaked out. There's people who actually sold for a loss. And I cannot believe, I was like, oh my God, some of the numbers that were being shown that people actually took massive losses. And I told people, I said, look, guys, USDC didn't fail. The bank failed. And because it had, and then all of a sudden you start having, you know, Brad Garlinghouse saying, hey, we got XRP in there. I mean, you know, well, XRP had some money in there, and you had different, a lot of crypto platforms that had money, and a lot of them didn't speak out, I think, in fear of, you know, people, you know, the FUD, and, you know, you see how quickly they were ready to persecute USDC. But at the end of the day, the point I'm trying to make is just there is, and just kind of feeding off what you're saying, there is a lot of corruption. I think, you know, again, not to get too much into it, but I think SBF, you know, Sam Bankman-Fried saw an opportunity to, from a greedy perspective, it still floors me how somebody like you and I, if we don't pay our crypto taxes, they're ready to throw us away for 10 years. But this guy is playing PlayStation in his living room. I just can't, I don't even get that. So obviously there's a lot more that's going to play out. You know, there's a lot more that's going to play out. And I just, like I said, it's not FUD. I'm one of those guys, Elder Karl, as me and you get to know each other. I'm a real guy, and it's not real because I'm on YouTube. Like, you can go back to my YouTube and Facebook and see 25 years or however long it's been in existence of me being on some of the biggest stages, speaking to people about mindset, wealth. That's what I used to teach, building relationships. And so I say that because I sincerely care about people. I'm a people's person. And the thing that scares me about this industry, and I'm sure you can agree with this, being in as long as you have, is I've seen people go out and mortgage their houses, sell their cars, and it kind of goes back to what you're saying. You have to take care of your family first. I know the old saying is never invest more than you can lose, and that's so true, meaning that it's not so much about losing, which in some aspects, I mean, I say this to you being around 2017, some of the top 30 coins, 20 coins aren't even here anymore. If you remember that, they're gone. And so that's why we have to be careful, because FTX was top 20 and Celsius and Luna. So you just gotta be careful. You can't go all in. You gotta do your own research. You gotta be a great student. Remember, this is your money and your family's financial future. And so many times, I want you to respond to this, people are looking for a get rich quick, you know, this is gonna change everything. I don't wanna work at this job no more. And even though that is the case, if you look at this from a fundamental perspective as far as long term, you know, look at what all the big money's saying, a $1.7 million Bitcoin, a $5 million. It just takes time. Don't try to rush it. Now, there are altcoins that can make you wealthy quick. I've invested in some and had the luxury of buying billions of Shiba when it came out, and all these Doge and all this stuff that, you know, obviously did some, and DOT when it, you know, went down and redenominated to $3 and bought a buttload of that. The point I'm trying to make is it can happen, but typically it happens to the people who are great students. And for everyone else, I would say be a great student and just have a plan. If you don't have a plan, then you're planning to fail. So just your take on that, and then the next thing I want to go to after that, after you answer this, is to my question to be about BoomerSquad. So just your take on that.
I mean, so first off, if at another time you want to get real tinfoil hatty, I can talk about USDC and what happened there, because I got some crazy theories.
We're open forum here.
But in terms of like this concept, I think the thing for for me that I learned very quickly, and the best example, and you typically learn by losing, right? Like that's your failing is a great teacher. And when I was talking about like the trust wallet situation, and when you have all these like things pop up, and you see people like, oh, I made $50,000, $100,000. The minute everybody's figured it out, right? And there's a project called Goose on Trust that was probably like just a back to back of like getting my ass kicked of like, oh, this happened. Now I know how to do it on the next time. I do that on the next time. But the thing is everybody now is thinking like I'm thinking because they see the formula, right?
That's right.
So then, and that doesn't work anymore. So like the minute that everybody's got something figured out is typically when bad things happen to masses, because again, you can't just flip things into forever and just start making money like it's nothing. Like it doesn't work that way. Like it needs to come from somewhere. It needs to be like truly organic. And so when you have these massive pumps like we had through before this bear, like where everything was going crazy, you have NFTs going for ridiculous amounts of money. You have any altcoin you can drop on the ground. I mean, there's memes on TikTok you can go through where somebody made a coin as a joke and woke up and the thing had like a $10 million market cap in like 6 hours, right? And they didn't even do anything. He just literally made the coin. When that stuff like eventually comes to fruition, there's a pretty big wash of all that stuff out. And so the minute, like there's a lot of things like FTX is a great example where people say like, oh, this is never going to go bad. This is like your safest investment. Like there's always those things. Those things always exist. And there are a lot that make it, and that is true for. However, there's plenty that were called the safest thing ever that just that end up failing because you don't know what's going on behind any of these companies. Like you just don't. You don't know what's going on behind the coins. You don't know if tomorrow Gary Gensler is going to get approval to ban Shiba Inu forever, right? Like who the hell knows? Like it's not saying that it's going to happen, but you have no control. So my whole thing has always been, and if this goes for anything in crypto, this is way bigger for me in like my work life throughout my entire career with people that I work with has always been like, I find that when people focus on things they cannot control is when you end up like missing out or like wasting your time. So for me, my message to people typically is focus on what you can control, put your energy in places that you have control of. And that would be, like you said, like making sure you're doing as much as you can to looking into these things. Listening to people talk is a big thing. Like there's tons of people where it's like, hey, I'm really excited about this NFT project. I am just going to buy a ton of it. That's totally fine. If you want to degen, that's your prerogative. But if you maybe jump into space and listen to the founder talk and see how he's articulating his message and how he's speaking and how he treats other people, like, and you're starting to get like, yeah, maybe I'm not really like, would I buy anything from this person if it wasn't already something I was excited about? Maybe not. Like that's where you can control on those things. And so I don't know. To answer your question, like altogether, it's just, I think people have a long way to go. It's going to be a long road. If crypto is supposed to be here for the long haul and for the future, then we're still at like the finest amount of time at the beginning, and there's still so much length to go. So getting rich quick is not easy. If it was easy, then everybody would be rich.
And the other thing that you just said too, before I go into it, and let me say this, guys. First of all, thank you so much, guys. Shouts out to Bullish Kenny G for gifting CKez, my man, who brought me and you together, a free membership to the channel. Thank you so much, Bullish Kenny G. CKez, one of our great supporters, man. I got a lot of love for that, brother. Thank you, guys. You guys are, man, I'm going to play Crypto Tales a little bit later in honor of you guys, but I want to stay on point with this. But congratulations to CKez, and thank you so much, Bullish Kenny G. You are the man. I appreciate you, my brother. So what you're saying is on point. And the one thing that we all have to remember, guys, and I'm so happy that Elder Karl just jarred this in my memory. For everybody that's good in this crypto space, like me and Elder Karl, there's 10 scammers out there waiting to take your money. You have to be careful, guys. You have to be careful when buying NFTs. You know what, Elder Karl, you know what, I got this philosophy called the 70-20-10 dollar cost average investment strategy in crypto. And I came up with it because I got wrecked early on. I mean, I was told the story some time ago how when I was trading, I ran up to my wife and said, "Oh my God, honey, I made $223,000." It was like in a week, right, off of a trade. And my kid, we were all high-fiving, and because I didn't understand the concept of taking profit, and I just thought it's just going to keep going. It's going to keep going. I woke up a few days later and it was down 150 grand. And I remember sitting in the bed like a baby with my thumb in my mouth, just going, I didn't want anybody touching me. I was just so pissed off. And that helped me develop my 70-20-10 dollar cost average and my 25-25-50 take profit. And so there's a strategy to that, and I've talked about it on one of my other videos. on my YouTube, but it's important to not only understand how to take profit, but also a lot of my pain came from being scammed. Like I've been scammed on NFTs. I've been scammed. So you know, we have to be careful. I remember when I first moved out, and I'm gonna say this quickly. I moved out to wine country where I'm at now. Me and my wife are just walking down the street, and we walked into this karaoke bar, and this is the honest God truth. And everyone's saying, "Hey, you know, I'm 6'8", so everybody walks. Hey, you play basketball? Yeah, I play well. You know." So I meet this guy, this gentleman in there. And he's just start talking about. I always wear crypto shirts, and I think the time I might have had a Bitcoin hat on. And he goes, "You're into crypto?" I said, "Yeah." So he starts talking about his crypto journey, and he was drinking, so I think he got comfortable with me. And I had like a cherry cocoa. I'm not a big drinker, and he started telling me about how him and some of his Silicon Valley friends would create these coins. And would have them go for a while, and they knew everything to do, and this and that. And people would get in, and they would just rug them. And he started naming, Elder Karl, projects, and I got pissed because one of the projects that he named I had bought into, and I'm thinking, I'm thinking, what's the chances out of everywhere in the world I would walk into a freaking karaoke bar and meet a guy that said a name of a coin. And the coin is irrelevant, but he said the name of the coin, and I mean, I was like, and I don't believe in Bible, but I want to choke the life out of this guy because, and it wasn't even a big bet, but all I could think of, all the people that he hurt, it wasn't about me.
Oh yeah.
And then it just put into perspective. He was like, "Oh, we did this, and I bought this, and I bought this, and I bought cars," and it just made me think, my God, there's so many stinking scammers out here. And just to meet one, you know, real life was just, I couldn't believe that had happened. But anyways, so that's just my little story about meeting someone who gets started.
You were in Silicon Valley, so you had a higher chance of running into somebody like that.
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what and that's why I had to credit it to. I was like, good Lord, what's the chance of this? So, but anyways, man, so you got in 17. Your background is phenomenal. What I've heard from people in the space, because before I bring people on, a lot of times I try to get a little bit of insight. You're extremely respected. Very well looked up to by a lot of people in the industry that just love your mindset and your involvement in what you're doing. So explain to me how everything that you've done, your investments, your success, your journey led you into BoomerSquad, and why are people so excited about this thing, man? I mean, is it because it's on Crow? Is it because it's, I mean, can you kind of explain to us how did it start? How'd you get involved, and why is everyone so hyped? And then where do you see this thing going? Because I want in.
Sure. Like I said, we have my group of buddies that I've known for a long time. That's all the core team is people that I've been around with, and you know, I would consider my best friends for like over 10 years now.
Okay.
Some of them even longer than that. And like anything else, like you hang out with your friends and you talk about, you know, whatever you're in, and we're like, you know, looking at different projects or different NFT stuff. And just over the course of time, we did always talked about doing something. Just like, I get, you know, shooting the shit, I guess I'd put it, is like, right. Hey, what if we did this? And then you kind of start getting into those talking sessions where you're kind of like spiraling into like, okay, well, if we did this, then we should, you know, this should be a part of it. Then what if we had this part of the thing? And we just started getting really excited about it and never really wanted to take the plunge on it. And then at just one point we decided, hey, let's just do it. Let's try to build something. And we had a pretty good range of expertise in the team. So like myself, I'm not like a developer or anything, but my whole background is based around just organizing people, keeping things moving forward, just like kind of getting teams to like hit goals and be successful is like my background. We had a couple people on the team that were like actual developers, not people that looked up how to fork a 721 NFT contract, like people that have like paid jobs working in development. We had people that were in marketing, and we had people that had started their own businesses and still run their own businesses. And so I was like, okay, let's do it. And so we put the idea together. We picked Crow because of one simple fact, and that was we wanted to be, there's two reasons. One, we know we couldn't do something that was like a hype train type of project. Like we definitely didn't, it's not in me to be that person. Even if I wanted to, it's not my personality. I'm horrible at like, put me in a Twitter space, and if I have nothing to say, like you'll just be dead air for like 30 seconds a minute. Like I have to be talking about something to talk. So like for like an ETH drop, that really doesn't work too well because you have to be grabby, you have to get people's attention, things like that. And also for the fact that like we wanted our product to be built on real expectations where Like when people over speculate on like what our project is going to do or things like that, like we typically will correct anything that gets like too wild, right? If somebody in Discord is like, oh, my NFT is going to be worth $50 million one day,
Right.
I'd be like,
Right.
probably not. This is why, and here's, I might be obviously, but who the hell knows? I don't think. I'm not
That's
letting
right.
people just run rampant, and that's the type of stuff you need in the bigger chain. So, Crow was a pick for one because it was smaller. Two, we wanted to keep realistic expectations, keep everything transparent, and three, the biggest reason was because it was close to Crypto.com. So, if those that don't know, Kronos would be the kind of DeFi sister network to Crypto.com.
Right.
And to people in crypto, that's like, why the hell would you do that? Crypto.com sucks. Coinbase sucks. All these centralized places suck. I want to keep my stuff on DeFi. The reality is for us, we looked at this situation pretty clearly, which is if you look at everybody in the world that exists today, the number of people that are in crypto is a small number of people. The number of people that from that number that are in DeFi and not just on exchanges
Right.
is even smaller. And then you cut that even a notch further down, people in NFTs is an even smaller number than that, right? So we're like a niche of a niche of a niche at this point.
Right.
And so we wanted to be best positioned to where in the future, as more people become adopted into NFTs or crypto or things like that, we wanted to be as closely a close proximity to where we think the onboarding will happen. And in most cases, it's going to be either Binance, Crypto.com, or Coinbase. Those are the three places it's going to happen. And for most people, like the first time, Joe Schmo on the street is going to open up buy crypto is going to be from opening up a MetaMask and onboarding through. He's going to go through one of those centralized places. So
That's right.
That's why we picked Crow, and we want to be there for the future. Not really worried about having like massive numbers right now because the people that are in crypto right now are like peanuts compared to what is coming eventually in the next 5-10 years, kind of thing. Is kind of how we picked that chain.
Well, I really like Crow a lot, Crypto.com, and I personally think it's probably one of the biggest kept secrets, which I don't even know how you can say it's a big kept secret, but I guess that's predicated off the price. Like I'm dumbfounded in many ways, and I understand Binance has BSC and a lot of stuff that they got going on right now with the Binance chain, but they got the card, they got the NFTs, they've got so many different things that that are attractive. They're able to help customers here in the U.S. and I just think that's huge. And again, there's still a lot of uncertainty on why you can't really access Binance without VPN. I don't want to get into that because I don't want to put FUD on that. But there's so much speculation with that. But I think I feel comfortable looking at all the things they're doing here in the U.S. whether it's MMA, whether it's all the different sports teams, whether you go to the day that they actually officially launched. Me and my wife specifically bought tickets to the Lakers game the day it was Christmas Day. I wanted to be there. I remember being there. It was Kevin Hart right there and everything else, and I was so excited. I was like, I'll pay any amount of money to be there just so I could say I could be a part of that history of them taking over the Staples Center. So I'm a big believer, big investor. Love the platform. And so it's natural that I want to hear more about BoomerSquad and what you guys are doing. And I think in the early stages, I remember seeing it back when I was co-hosting with the IBF family. I saw that there was like rooms people were building and all these different, and I'm like, what's going on? And there's just so much hype, and it was like. It was one of the things that I wanted to get in, but it just kept expanding. I'm like, good Lord, I like, what do I do? Like, how do I, where do I start? And so, but I could just see so many people hyped up, and I said, I definitely want to look at this more. And then CKEZ said, hey man, you got to get with older Karl, and so here we are after a couple tries of getting on board, and I'm so happy we did. So where do you see, obviously, the future of BoomerSquad going, and what are you guys doing right now as far as, just adoption? What else do you guys got coming? Anything that maybe you could talk about? And are you guys going to be in LA at this NFT event or any other events that's coming up?
Yeah, so as far as events go, we'll be at the Game Developer Conference next week, actually, in San Francisco. It's actually going on the same time as NFT LA, I think.
Now,
so we'll be in San Fran next week on Monday.
Okay, what is that called?
GDC, Game Developer Conference up there.
Okay, so is that more towards gaming and not so much NFTs?
Yeah, correct. But they have, so this is actually where speaking of like conventions and things like that, like that's to me like the best places to be is like where you have good adjacent industries that could like start working. Like I go because I went to NFT NYC last year. I'll probably go again this year. But like everyone there is already in. They're there. You know, like I like talking to people that are less informed, maybe are kind of interested in thinking about it, right? Because that's where a lot of the opportunity is. So we'll be at Game Developer Conference with Kronos. They'll be there. They'll have a couple of other Kronos projects there as well.
Really? Okay.
And that, yeah, and I think they're trying to recruit developers to build on Kronos for games and stuff. So it'll be a good opportunity to like see, you know, what other people, because it's important for like if you really care about the space and to anyone like or wants to build in the space, like start getting opinions of blockchain and NFTs and crypto and from people that aren't here, because that's like really where the opportunity is, right? And so like understanding what's preventing them from coming and what is it that they don't like about the space that they're not here already for. Obviously you need to like care about the people that are here, but these people here get it. Like, you know, they're either, I mean, they're already here for the reasons that we talked about earlier. So for us, like we picked GDC to go with Kronos because they asked for us. And then, like I said, we'll be at NFT NYC whenever that is, like in the middle of April.
Now, so this is going to be, do you have the dates for that by any chance?
For NYC?
Oh, no, the one right here in San Francisco. You have the dates for that?
Yeah, that's Monday. It's the 20th, I think, is this upcoming Monday.
Okay,
for Monday and Tuesday.
Okay, Monday and Tuesday.
Monday and Tuesday is just speaking, and then so like if you want to go to like actually meet people, like we'll be there in Kronos. That's starting on Wednesday. So the expo is Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of next week.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
And we'll be there when.
Okay, so if anybody want to come down and meet you, just so people know, it's March the 22nd, 23rd, 24th. Does it cost to get into the event?
It does, but I mean, we'll be around. Like, I mean, you can only be in those conventions for so long throughout the day, right? So, like, I was last time we were in NFT NYC, there wasn't a ton of people from our community there, but I'll also do the same thing now, where I'll say like, hey, you want a business meeting, you want to catch a lunch or whatever, like I'll be in San Francisco Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'll be there next week, and I'll be at the booth on Wednesday because I'm flying home on Thursday.
Just for those who are tuned in, do you know what the cost is to get into the event?
I want to say it's like $250. I want to say.
Okay. So for anybody listening, $250, you're able to go out there and meet older Karl. I think it's funny because I was going to go out to LA to the NFT event just because I'm, you know, with the new channel and everything, I'm trying to get out there and just, you know, network and things like that. But I would love to go out there and meet you guys in Kronos because going to LA is about a 9-hour from where I'm at, whereas going to see you guys would be about an hour, and I like an hour better than 9. So I might actually.
Hit me up. We could talk offline. I can get you in contact with Kronos because I think they have extra tickets for other like projects and stuff, so I can hook you up with them and see what they can do. Done.
I'll definitely make a commitment to go out there. That way, I can take some pictures with you guys and network and hang out and all that kind of stuff, and then we'll have to come back and do this again. So I'm excited about that, and then also like where are you guys going? Because now, here's what I want to ask you. Do you have the ability, if I share my screen, do you have anything you can show us as far as BoomerSquad and maybe explain some more?
I can tell you where to go. Okay, you're on my iPad, so I can't do shit here.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, no worries. So is there anything I can pull up that maybe because I'm on I see your Twitter right now. Is there something on there like?
Go to our website first.
Where it says at BoomerSquad NFT. Okay. Okay, it looks like this is another Twitter here. So let me go back here.
Just a BoomerSquad.io.
Okay, let me do that real quick. Okay, guys, let me.
So I think as you pull it up, I think for those that don't know, everything we kind of do is on our Boomers is pretty simple. So the Boomer NFTs were pretty basic in that everything that we build in our umbrella of our project, whether it's Boom Rooms, Zoomers, on-chain games, we do raffles, things like that. All of that feedback and will always kind of benefit the Boomers. Like we think of like Boomers as like the trunk of our tree, and we have all these different branches of things in our ecosystem that kind of work and function with each other.
Right.
So as far as the Boomer goes, you simply hold it, you leave it in your wallet, and that's all you need to do. And then you get airdrops, whitelisting. You have something what we call a mattress fund, which is where we take a pay splitter account. So normally it's pretty typical for projects to do something like staking your NFT and you get like a certain amount of coins back or whatever. Okay. We developed a pay splitter to where you actually don't need to stake your NFTs, because we wanted to kind of emphasize this concept of you holding onto your assets. And so basically, when you have them in your wallet, you can just go to our website and the My Boomers page, which you won't see anything when you go there right now. And it'll basically just tell you how much Crow you can take from the mattress fund based off of how many Boomers you have, and how much Scratch, which is our utility token, you can take for yourself as well. But if you go to Explore there on the top, and basically sorry, Pawn Shop, I'm watching your YouTube, so I'm delayed. So
yeah, no worries.
Like,
no worries.
You're not moving yet.
No worries.
But I think the coolest thing for us is like we just like building cool things. So we did right out of the gate when we first launched, we did something called Chow Time, which was an on-chain game. It was like a marketplace arbitrage game. It was an event-based thing where you took a bunch of food NFTs, like a plate, a steak, drink, broccoli, or whatever, and then you combine them and you turn them in for a Crow, and that was like the way the game worked. And depending on where the game comes in, is those ingredients value changed over the course of the game. So you had to kind of like strategize when was the best time to turn in steak and when was the best time to turn in like ice cream and all that stuff. And it was a cool thing. Everyone really liked it. It was just like a 30-day kind of like to see how people would react to something like that, right? People were like all over that.
Wow.
So we'll be doing that again here in a couple of months. We have boom rooms, which I don't have time to go through all that stuff because the boom rooms are crazy, but essentially a boom room is a fully customizable NFT. Think of like your NFT as a room. It's an empty room, and it has all of its properties are empty, and that's where you put like your furniture. So like your bed, your walls, your building, your whatever, all of those furniture components are also customizable in the sense that you can combine them however you want. So there's like an ice bed with a forest pillow and a cave accessory, whatever. All that stuff matters because depending on how well you construct this stuff all together, you basically get a certain amount of points, and those points determine versus the rest of the ecosystem that has rooms, how much of our utility token you earn, because our utility token is being distributed evenly over the course of 5 years. So it's a super in-depth thing.
That's ingenious.
It's like that boom room. That boom room drop was like 16 contracts that are all talking together at like one time when it runs.
Wow.
And they're all like, you're basically taking these NFTs and combining them, burning them, making new stuff. You get to, when you finally make your room, you get to take all the assets instead of it just being a generic image. You get all the assets on your screen and you get to place them on the image wherever you want. So you could put your bed like up on the top. You could make your bed really small, really big. You could fully customize the image as well on top of that. And so those have been going around for a while. And then we have things like, we have like raffles for our utility token. We have games like bingo, things like that. We have our upcoming Zoomer drop, which is going to be our kind of gaming branch of our ecosystem. And when we talk about games, it's not like Skyrim, things like that. We're not going to pretend to make anything like that. Everything we do is going to be more around like what I would call like either a degenerate type of game or a chess type of game. So it's either something that you got to think a lot about or just have some stupid fun with. And so Chow Time is one of those examples where it's played on block. It's all done through your browser. It's not like a highly graphic, intense type experience, but for those that played it, had to like think about what they were doing and strategize and see how the game was being played to make decisions. That's the type of stuff that we call for our games, essentially.
Now, when I'm connecting to this, if I want to go invest, it has Connect Wallet. What wallet can I connect to?
If you have a MetaMask or the DeFi wallet, is fine. Either those two. Actually, Wallet Connect will work as well if you have some other wallets. All those should work okay.
Okay.
I think like I said, for us, the best place to start, if you see a book, for anyone who's like really interested in getting deep into it, the book at the top browser, that's our gift book. And it gives you everything that we've done, gives you everything that we've kind of planned, all of our light papers, all of our documentation.
Oh, wow.
We post our financial records every 6 months. We post like how we've kind of distributed the revenue that we've gotten, where it's been spent, how much the team has taken, et cetera, things like that.
Wow.
We've got, so like most people, when they start going through that gift book, probably spend like, it takes probably like an hour to maybe 2 to like consume all that stuff that's in there. And we're still kind of just building on it because it's like our biggest repository of information. And like I said, we want to be like pretty open and honest about what we're doing. So it's all in here. But I think the other cool thing that we have, I'm just rambling at this point because it's so hard after, like when you first start, right? And you're like, hey, we got this concept, we got this idea. Like a whole year later, we've got so much stuff in here, it's hard to like summarize it in there.
Right.
But we have a 3PL that we just started as well. So because I'm a nerd and I like logistics type stuff, right? So when it worked. But a base like this hat here that I have on, my hat here is going to show. Like this was free merch that we gave to all our holders.
Oh wow!
It's a really cool hat. It's hard to see, like it's got the underbills, like the matrix background and things like that. But this concept of offering people who have real life products a platform for them to sell them without having to have their own website. So we're not going to compete to be eBay or something like that. So like we have people who may make, like little figurines or 3D print NFTs, or, I've been playing with stuff myself. I got another room of like getting NFTs printed out on like frames and things like that, where you can go to our website and pay for them on block. Right. So you could pay for them with crypto, and then you give us your shipping address and payments off block. So your payments to us with your wallet that ties to the product is separate from like the shipping information. We don't store shipping information. It's just a nice kind of like mixture of a centralized, decentralized version of like eBay or Amazon type thing. So we're basically building a ton of branches of things that we just want to build cool stuff, and all of it feeds the boomers is essentially the core of it in some way, shape, or form. And yeah, there's a ton in there. If anyone's really interested, wants to go into it, they can pop in Discord or hit us up on Twitter. We typically talk, like, I want to say the last time we did like a deep dive summary of the project, it was like a 2.5 hour space, Twitter space, just kind of like talking through everything.
I love it because, I like anything that it just seems like there's endless, things that you can get into and explore and buy and just be a part of. And so I definitely can see how, CCAS and so many are you're very excited. And I'm the same way, man. I love being, it's one thing to buy an NFT, but I like being able to dig deeper and be more a part of it. So I think this is definitely going to be a great fit. And I'm going to have CCAS kind of walk me through all this stuff. So this is exciting. You got a lot of love, man. M. Spicer showing us love for you. CCAS, obviously. Lazy Hustler. You got a lot of support here. So we definitely appreciate you being here. Anything else you want to add? I definitely want to come to the event and meet with you guys. So I can almost say that's a definite. I'm going to be out there because it just makes sense. I didn't know that was going to happen. I was, kind of trying to figure out how everything would work with me and my wife's schedule to get to LA. And so this is just going to be easy because it's skipping a hot down the way. So look forward to seeing you guys up there, and I look forward to getting that message with all the details. Anything else you want to add in regards to this incredible project? And for those of you guys who are listening today, again, not financial advice, but I'm definitely going to invest in this. It's a long time coming. My hat's off to meeting you, and I think it really just gives me more validation about you, your team, the journey that you guys have had in creating all this, and it just looks phenomenal. I mean, just next level graphics. It's exciting, and I'm going to have a lot of fun messing around with it for sure. Yeah.
No, thanks. I think the thing that I didn't really go through is much is we have our Zoomers, which like that's coming up next week.
Okay.
One of the coolest parts about those is when you get that NFT, we'll have introducing something called variants with them.
Okay.
So you think of an NFT and you have like your typical traits like skin, outfit, background, shit like that, right? We have 2 artists making 2 collections for that NFT, and you'll be able to switch between the 2 images, whichever one you like better, with the same single NFT. So when you mint that one, you'll get an in-game version, which is a Zoomer sitting at an arcade playing like an old Doom game or something like that, right?
That's awesome.
And then you'll have the in-game version, which is a Zoomer like in Doom shooting like a monster that's like a Doom monster, basically. And then we'll have a third variant, which is him like a close-up PFP version, because one of the biggest complaints with our collection is we do weird art.
Right.
So like it's not like your typical like waist high PFP type stuff. It's like full body type stuff at some point. And then the 4th version will be a mintable like roll on a rarity. So like you think of like baseball cards, Pokemon cards that you talked about, where you get like there might be a rare Charizard, but then there's the rare hollow version of that. You can get a hollow version through this as a variant. And so when you have this one NFT, you'll be able to go to our website without any cost. You just have to sign a transaction to basically switch which one you want it to show. It'll change it on block. The metadata will update real time, and you'll basically be able to have like, you're minting one, but you're getting 2 artists worth of work in terms of the artwork and things like that. And there's other benefits with Zoomers, but that's like everything we drop on we're not artists, so we just come up with really annoying things for our developer to make because he doesn't like when I come up with shit for him to like put the code. But like every drop we've done from an art perspective has had a wrinkle that we think is cool. The Boomers was this full size thing where they're doing an action. Boom Rooms was fully customizable, do whatever you want.
Wow.
Zoomers' wrinkle that makes it cool is this: you get multiple art versions. It's the same NFT, the same traits, but you're getting kind of like 2 different versions of it, at least, if not 4, depending on what you do. So
nice. Nice. Well, guys, I want to take this time to thank my man, my new family member, Elder Karl, for being on the show. I'm officially a part of the BoomerSquad family. Make sure you go to Elder Karl's Twitter page, guys. I got it pulled up right here. Follow him. He's amazing. I've heard nothing but great things about him. Also, make sure you go over to BoomerSquad. Get on board with this thing before the market blows up. Again, not financial advice, but I'm about to take a big deep dive into this thing and have a lot of fun with it. We appreciate you being on, man. Definitely a lot of love, and I look forward to seeing you there in San Francisco.
Yeah, I appreciate the time. Seriously, I know what it's like to host this type of stuff. I know you guys put a ton of work in. You guys, honestly, like, this is not like ball fanning, giving too much flowers. Like, people like you that host content and create content for people, like, is a big part of our ecosystem, and I feel like are pretty under-supported generally for the most part. So I appreciate anybody that does what you're doing, and you do a great job. I started watching your stuff from here and there when CK's referenced it. I don't got time to watch you stream way too much to check everything. But I've seen you. I appreciate the work.
I appreciate it, man. And you know, we're just getting started. Like I said, 3 or 4 months in, but you know, my biggest thing is just to be authentic, grow organically. I always say never sacrifice integrity for growth. And then I think we'll be able to do that through people like yourself and your incredible platform, BoomerSquad, and the ecosystem. So thank you so much for being on, my brother. Much respect. And we'll see you in San Francisco.